Good morning. It's 8:30. It's Sunday. I'm Ron. So this must be Sunday Morning Live with Ron. Hi there. Welcome to my backyard once more. Hard to believe, but this is week 9 already of doing this series. For those of you who have never been or here before or seen this particular broadcast or whatever this is, I don't know. It's just me being live in my backyard. What we do on Sunday mornings is we do 3 different things. One, I'm going to show you the 5 new pictures that are going into my gallery this week. Those will definitely not be until tomorrow. 2, we talk about photography and how to make your photography better. This week we are on our 2nd week of composition, and we're going to talk about the golden ratio, which leads to the golden spiral, which is also called the Fibonacci spiral. So we'll look at all of that. And then the 3rd thing we will do is I will take my Sony a6000, which is the camera that I use for all of my shooting these days. I will take him off of his stand and I will attempt to show you some examples of how to use those 2 concepts, the golden ratio grid and the Fibonacci spiral, while composing your photographs. So without further ado, if you drop in, do stop by, say hello. I am always glad to talk to people, answer any of your questions as we go along. So, be that as it may, let's jump right into the first thing we're going to do, which is we're going to show you 5 new photos that are going into my gallery this week. Okay? And here they come. Okay. This first one is called Yosemite Skies. Okay. It's taken at Glacier Point in Yosemite National Park. I don't remember quite exactly where I was, but there was a point where I could look back up at this tree and this rock and the ground covering there, and it was just a gorgeous, gorgeous fall day with these beautiful blue skies. So I took that picture. It was special. It was my birthday weekend. I was there with a special person, and it was a very special trip. So this one holds, all the pictures from that trip hold special memories for me. It was a lot of fun. But this one came out particularly beautifully. Again, this is Yosemite Skies. It'll be on the website tomorrow. The second one is called Citrus Leaves in the Morning. I have a couple of non-denominational citrus trees. They grow these big yellow fruits as if they were supposed to be grapefruits, but they are all rind. So I really kind of think that maybe as I look at the base of the tree, it's all coming out of the rootstock and not actually going into not actually the tree that was actually planted that is currently bearing fruits. So who knows? But they have big, broad, pretty leaves, and as you can see, I don't feed them well. I don't spray them for bugs. They are what I call organic by default. Not because I'm trying to be organic with them, but because I simply don't get out there to do anything for them. So I realize there are organic ways to control pests and there are organic ways to feed, but this isn't really something that I worry about. It's a rental property. I didn't plant those trees. Uh, I like them. Uh, it's fun that they're there. I keep saying, this is now the third year I've been here, that I'm going to start reshaping them and see if I can get them to produce on the actual fruit part, but it just hasn't been that important. I have a lot of things to do. Our third piece this morning is called Don't Stare into the Sun. This was taken what is late afternoon in January, about 3:30 in the afternoon in January, at one of my favorite places, Rockaway Beach in Pacifica, California. You can see all the rocks. This was actually down in a public area at the end of the street. Looking back out at one of the points, you'll see this rock a lot in a lot of my pictures. It is right there as the sun sets to the west, so it makes a very good subject for a lot of my pictures. Sorry for those of you on Instagram who can't actually see the rock that I'm pointing out, but if you go afterwards, this will be linked, and you can go to my bio, and you can find the link in my bio that will take you to a page where you can find all of these works again on Monday. Take a look at more details. And so on to number 4. This one is called Crystal Lake Sunrise. Okay, this lake down here is near Donner Pass in California. It is called Crystal Lake, as near as I can tell. It did not have one of those nice signs on it like you get on the map. It should say Crystal Lake right across here to help those of us who are geographically challenged. But it didn't have that. But it was very pretty, so I took the picture anyway. For those of you who haven't heard it, this was a trip on my way up to Reno. I went over a long weekend, President's Day weekend, up to Reno, specifically because I wanted to take sunrise and sunset pictures. I left the house at about 4 o'clock in the morning so that I could be up in the mountains at about this point. I believe this one was taken about 7:45. It was fairly late in terms of sunrise. But I like the way that the light is coming up through the clouds. You may have noticed that I really like skies. Between this one and this one and this one, I really like sky. I like clouds, I like skies. I was always fascinated when we studied earth science in 9th grade about weather and clouds and how they form and how they move. And here with the early morning sun, you get very strong directional lighting on the clouds and the mountains there. Okay. This was taken when I actually got to Reno. And I forgot to look at the time. But this is I'll have it in the actual notes, but I believe this is a sunset picture. Because the sunrise was in that direction. This one is called Distant Ski Haven. Okay. I believe what you're seeing here, the lines on the mountains, I believe that is Heavenly Ski Resort. It is definitely one of the Sierra Nevada ski resorts. This was taken out of my hotel window at the Silver Legacy Resort in downtown Reno. When I went, I took all my winter clothes because I was pretty sure I was going to be out on the roof of a parking garage or driving up to an overlook area to catch sunrise at 6 o'clock in the morning or to watch the sun set in the evening. And it turned out they put me on the 22nd floor in a corner room where I could actually shoot almost a full 180 degrees. There was a casino in the way in one corner. I got a nice picture of that. That'll be coming soon. But this one is called Distant Ski Haven, and it's sunset in the Sierra Nevada. Just looking out across Reno. When you blow this up in high resolution, you can actually see some of the lights coming on in the city down here below. And then the ski mountain in the distance. So there they are. That's our 5 new pictures this week. Once more, they are Distant Ski Haven, Crystal Lake Sunrise, Don't Stare Into the Sun, Citrus Leaves in Morning, and Yosemite Skies. You'll find all of those on the website on Monday, probably Monday morning early sometime. And as I usually do, they'll have brief write-ups when they first go up, and then I feature each one in a Facebook post through the week. So you'll get to know a little bit more in depth about each of those shots as well. Excuse me. But if you have any questions in the meantime, please do let me know. You can contact me on Facebook or Instagram with comments or direct messaging. You can also, there's a contact form on the website. And the website, for those of you who don't know, is Ron Olcott, O-L-C-O-T-T, photography.com. I keep saying the website. I probably should tell you what website. RonOlcottPhotography.com. And you can go there and you can see all of my work so far and enjoy it as much as I do. And of course, it's a store. You can buy prints on wood, canvas, metal, photographic paper, or acrylic. So we have quite a few choices there. We also, now all of my pieces are available as coasters, drink coasters. So those are pretty exciting. If you don't have the money to spring for a good sized print, you can always get a coaster and still enjoy my art. So hopefully that will be. We have been joined by Border Monochrome, who are actually in the UK, and Mary Beth has joined. Hi, Mary Beth. I look at Border Monochrome all the time. Welcome. They actually focus on black and white photography. And Mary Beth, I'm not sure where I know Mary Beth from, but I'm glad that she's here this morning. So just to recap for those of you that just joined, once again, our 5 new images this week are Yosemite Skies, citrus leaves in morning. Don't stare into the sun. Crystal Lake sunrise. Hang on, I've got to get rid of, no I don't. There. And distant ski haven, which I believe to actually be Heavenly Ski Resort. So those are the 5 new pictures. They will be going up on the site on Monday. Hang on, I've got something that popped up in my way and I've got to get rid of it. Well, I hope I got to get rid of it. Oh well, it won't be gotten rid of that easily. Oh, there's the thing. Okay, there. Now we've got it. You're back to me. Hi. So we are. Oh no, border monochrome dropped off. Too bad. They were just looking for black and white pictures, probably, and I don't have any of those this week. I have a few in my collection, just not this week. So we've done the first thing that we do. Okay, we've talked about the new pictures that are coming up on the site this week. Now we get to do the second thing that we do, which is to give you some tips on ways that you can improve your own photography. And we're now in the second week of talking about composition. Okay, the first few weeks we talked about exposure. Okay, we talked about how to use exposure to get better pictures. And we talked about that exposure triangle of aperture, sensitivity, and shutter speed. And that determines how much light goes into your camera. And all of those things affect different aspects of depth of field, how light your picture is, how dark your picture is. You use shutter speed to stop action or let action blur. So if you don't understand exposure, go back and look at those 4 episodes, and they will give you some pointers. Last week, we started talking about composition. Okay? And composition, even if you just have a camera that all you can do is point and shoot. Okay? Just a basic, what we call a pinhole camera, because you actually can make a camera by poking a pinhole in a box and putting a sensor at the back of the box, and you will get an image on that sensor because the pinhole acts as a lens to focus things on the back of the box. But that's not what we're talking about now. So even if you have the most basic camera, you can use composition techniques to improve your photography. So the first thing that we talked about last week was the rule of thirds. And that's the idea that if you take and you divide, this way, divide your field of view up into 3 parts, equally vertically, and the same thing horizontally, okay, then you have a grid. And the things that you put at the intersection of that grid are things of interest. Now, those of you watching on Facebook and YouTube who have the wide screen, you'll see that my eyes, generally speaking, fall right there in that point of interest. Why? Because when you're taking pictures of people or animals, the things that you're going to focus on automatically, your brain goes to, are eyes. Okay? The eyes are the windows of the soul. I didn't make that up. I've heard it before. But so the rule of thirds involves that, okay? You can also use the rule of thirds in zones, okay? So everything below this line becomes foreground, everything above this line becomes background, okay? And, oh, gee, look. See how my fence behind me sort of falls on that third line, okay? And then, okay, so that's rule of thirds. Today we're going to talk about a slightly different twist on that. And that uses a concept called the golden ratio. Okay? The golden ratio, when you're working with a golden ratio grid, we'll start with the simple use case first. Working with a golden ratio grid, you see it looks kind of like the rule of thirds, except that the lines are not equally divided. And as it turns out, if you take each of these squares, okay, and you take the short side, okay, and you call it 1 unit, then the long side is 1.608 units. Okay? And that ratio, 1 to 1.608, is called the golden ratio. When our brain sees something that matches that ratio, it feels satisfied. Okay? So you notice by using that ratio, we end up with the same concept of 9 squares, okay? But the center portion is much tighter. Okay? So what does that mean? Let's jump back here to me, something I can control. Okay. Let's do that fade very quickly again. Okay. You see, there's the golden ratio. Okay. If we come back to me, I'm just outside that. If I move my head just a few inches in, and just look at that for a second. That is a different composition than having it here on the third. Just that little bit of difference, and it becomes somehow a little bit more pleasing to the eye. Okay? Now I also have to crunch down a little bit. Okay? So if you look at what I was saying about foreground and background behind me, okay, you'll see that in fact the lawn isn't on the third line, it's more on the golden ratio line, and the same with the fence. Okay? So that is the golden ratio grid, okay? Where if instead of using the dividing into 3 equal parts, you use that ratio of 1 to 1.608, and you come up with a grid that looks more like this. Now, some cameras have the option to overlay this grid as you are taking your pictures. The A6000 does not. It only has the thirds overlay. But knowing that the third line would be about here, I can still compose by shooting just inside that. Okay? And when you go to do post-production, which I was hoping I could show you today, but for some reason it doesn't project. So I'll have to work on finding a tool that will project. In many of the post-production tools, you have the option. So if you leave yourself plenty of room around your picture, then you can crop it and try it different ways. Okay? You can try it with the rule of thirds. You can try it with this golden ratio and see which one you like better. It's very interesting because if you pay attention to the things that your eyes are drawn to, the things that you find pleasing in art, okay, you will find that when you look at them more closely, many of them are going to be in the golden ratio. Now, I mentioned something else called the Fibonacci spiral. Okay? The Fibonacci spiral results from the repetitive application of that golden ratio. Okay? And it looks like this. Okay? It's also called the golden spiral. Okay? But if you look at the numbers, they form a Fibonacci sequence. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Instagram. Let's see if I can fix that a little bit for Instagram right here, quickly. See, they at least can get a lesson. There. That should bring it into the center more. Okay. If you look at the ratios here, okay, you end up with a Fibonacci sequence. The inner square is a 1 by 1 square. Okay. The next square is 1 by 2. Okay. And then it's 2 by 3. Okay. But if you look at each individual piece in here, you will see that it has the ratio of 1 to 1.608. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? If you look at this overall square, it is 1 by 1.608. And something interesting happens mathematically. And that is, if you take that 1.608 and you carve out the square, see, most of the formulas that you see for building this spiral tool, you will see them listed as starting with the 1 by 1 and then doing a 1.608, okay, and then using that as your new measure and doing 1.6, okay, they build it up. I find it easier as I'm building these things to think of it as if I have that golden ratio, okay, if I have a rectangle with that golden ratio, okay, and I carve a square out of it, okay, so this is 1, this is 1.608. So if I take 1 by 1, okay, there's a square, I end up with a rectangle. And the rectangle that's left over, even though to the original rectangle this is 0.608, if I take this as my new 1, this rectangle is 1 by 1.608, standing on its edge. Okay? If I then draw a square, I end up with a smaller rectangle, okay, that now is 1 by 1.608. Okay? And you just keep doing that into infinity, which is a mathematical concept. Obviously, at some point, your drawing tools are going to restrict you on what you can actually render on your screen. But the idea holds, and you end up with this spiral. Okay? Well, what's so cool about this spiral? Well, let me tell you. One of the things that you will find when you start looking for that golden spiral, okay, is you will find all kinds of applications to it. Now, I must admit, there are many examples that I look at that go, okay, you just plopped that over top of a picture. I'm not really sure how this describes the composition of that picture. Okay? Yes, here you've got a subject right at that center point. This line I kind of understand. Okay. You've got some interesting stuff going up tall here, and then you've filled up this square on the other side. All right, I'll buy that one. Okay. Some of them, okay. I'm amazed I have not found, okay. This is a classic example. Waves in nature automatically form this type of spiral, okay. And this is a famous, I can never remember the artist, but this is a famous Japanese print, okay. But see how the wave, the inside curl of the wave, and then the outside curl of the wave, and the direction up to the next wave, okay? How that all forms this marvelous smooth spiral, and how satisfying that shape is, okay? Galaxies represent these same kind of spirals. Almost any spiral that you see in nature. The classic example, and I don't know why I don't see one here, is a nautilus shell. There it is, okay? This is the one everybody drags out. This is a nautilus, or a nautilus shell, okay? If you've never seen a nautilus, they're just amazing creatures. They have them at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. But you see that the way it grows, it develops this same type of spiral, okay? So how do we apply that to our art? It's a little bit tricky, but as I said, you can throw that on top of almost any picture, okay? That one was specifically done to demonstrate it. But that picture of the buildings and the trees that I showed you, okay, is an example of, yeah, it sort of fits and you can sort of think of it. I find it really useful, particularly when I'm doing, oh, Sarah's here. Hi, Sarah. Particularly when I'm doing still lifes, where I have control over my composition, complete control, okay? Because sometimes it's very hard to get yourself lined up to find that spiral shape, okay? That smooth shape in the landscape, okay? The golden ratio grid, okay, you can control that more easily. But finding that spiral in the landscape is oftentimes difficult, but not impossible, as we're about to demonstrate. But let me recap where we are so far. We have looked at our 5 pictures, and they were Distant Ski Haven, Crystal Lake Sunrise, Don't Stare into the Sun. Here, get that so you can see it. Citrus Leaves in Morning, and Yosemite Skies. Those were the 5 pictures this week, and those will be up on Monday. We talked about the golden ratio grid and how you can use that in composition to change the way a picture looks and how it feels. Composition is really, to me, about getting the story, getting the feel out of a picture that you want, okay? So if we look, I love this transition. If you look at how that grid, if I get him recentered on the screen, nope, if I get him recentered on the screen, okay, and I'm going to blow him up to take up as much of the screen as possible because I want to do this transition thing. Yes, you are right. I am geeking out. Leave me alone. Okay. So I get that kind of centered. Okay. Now watch as I transition here. Okay. I am right here. Yep. Nope. Right here. I am on the thirds line. Okay. And we talked about the rule of thirds last week. Okay. Now, where I tend to naturally sit is actually on the golden ratio line. Okay. You'll notice I am never, ever, ever centered in a shot when I am live. And that is because off center, using that rule of thirds or that golden ratio, is a more interesting picture. And frankly, my face needs all the help it can get on being interesting. So so I tend to sit somewhere between that thirds, there's the third line, here's the golden ratio line. My head will be somewhere in there, and my eyes will be lined up at one of those intersections nearly every time. Sort of automatically, because when I look at myself and I frame my shot, having studied these rules and sort of internalized them, that's just naturally where it looks right to me. Okay? Now, what about the spiral? Okay, we also talked about that. Fibonacci spiral, okay, or the golden spiral. Okay. Where are we going to find that in nature? And the answer is, let's come back here. Okay, so there, I'm sort of on that closer. Okay, now let's look at something that happens almost automatically, because as I said, when I set up so that it feels right. Okay. So what happens? Let's look from the side of my head. Make a spiral out. Oh, look, there's an object of interest along the spiral. Okay. Oh, look, the branch of that tree behind me arches over and makes another spiral. Okay? And it all spreads out. So there's interesting stuff up in this corner. There's interesting stuff all the way around the outside. Okay? I've got this big, interesting red kettle behind me. Okay? All the way around. And if you keep drawing the spiral, you'll see that eventually it comes into my eyes. Okay? What have I done? I used the idea of that golden spiral to frame the shot. Okay? So the main thing that I want you to look at, my eyes right here. My eyes, everything in this shot is designed to bring your attention right here. Okay. When do you use this technique? When you have something that is a strong, 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 singular subject. Okay. You want to bring attention to that specific point. Okay. Then look for ways to frame that point in the spiral. Oop, other way. Okay. Up and around and over and down. Okay. Look for ways to find those curves, to put objects of interest around it so that they actually are focusing the attention in here. That's the whole idea of making your photograph more interesting because of the composition that you use with it. Okay? That's the end of the lesson for today. So, what does it mean? It means, one, we've looked at the new pictures. Two, we have looked at the we've done our photography tip. Okay, photography tip today is on composition, using that golden ratio grid or using the golden spiral. Okay, so the only thing we have left to do with the next 20 minutes or so is to actually take a look. This show may run a little bit short. As I said, I really wanted to be able to show you the difference in how photographs come out when you use the rule of thirds versus this golden ratio and the idea of the golden spiral. But I did not find an editing program that would cast for me on the internet. So we're going to jump right into showing how I use that on my A6000. So bear with me a little bit. There is nothing interesting as I shoot at the house here. So I'm going to have to stand up and get my camera off of its tripod. So to do that, I'm going to have to set you down, Sarah. And, oh, Sarah's gone. I'm going to have to set you down. And I'm going to have to set down Instagram. I'm not going to be able to see Facebook. So bear with me. If you have a question, I'll try to turn around and look. But I need to stand up, turn around, and use my camera out the other way. So we'll switch over to the actual shot. Now that you know about this whole trick of using the spiral, look at this shot and start thinking about where I have placed the center of attention, okay, and which of those techniques I used for this shot. Very similar to me sitting in the chair, but a different shot. Okay, you got it. You understand it. Do you see it? Do you see that spiral with the tree over on that side? Okay. There, got him loose. Got all of the cords going the right way. Let's see, which way do I have to turn so that I don't end up disconnecting myself? I gotta move my mic cord to the other side. Okay. All right. So, now I'm at a bit of a disadvantage here in that when I go to electronic mode, I have to look at the screen in order to see what I'm shooting at. All right. So, let's look here. Okay. And if we look right up here at the branch of that tree, okay, you'll see that it by itself sort of creates some of that spiral effect. Okay? And if I look and try to focus, and very hard to do, okay, but if I look and try to focus, okay, and use that. As I move around in it, you can see I can change the item that is the focus of my attention. Okay. So I'm still using that tree to frame things, okay? But as I change the direction I'm using on that curve, I'm getting different parts of the house behind me that are are different subjects out of the house behind me, okay? Now I'm going to sit back down here because I found something I can shoot sitting down. Oh, not my lights. That comes under the heading of don't stare into the sun. Yep. Okay. Let's look over here at Mr. Oleander. Okay, I'm going to set this down so I have a more stable platform. There we are. Okay. So let's look over here at Mr. Oleander. And we're going to play him against the fence right there. Okay. So if I use the rule of thirds, you see if I partially... Oh, no, I turned off my grid. But if I use the rule of thirds, okay, Mr. Oleander would kind of be right there. Get level. Okay. If I use the golden ratio grid, he would probably fall more here. Is that a more interesting shot? Yeah, it is. Sorry about the timer. I got to remember to reset my camera every time I come back. Okay. Well, what about the spiral? Well, let's see if we stand him on his head. Okay. Oh, it won't do that. All right, never mind. I forgot. In video mode, it won't rotate. Okay. But if you notice, and that's as zoomed in as it will go right now. Okay. If you notice right here, okay, along the edge of the plant there, we start to see a little bit of that spiral effect. Okay? How it's open at the top and it gets tighter down towards the bottom. Okay? If you look at the way the leaves grow in clusters, okay, that clustering effect starts to define a Fibonacci spiral. Okay? So any place that you see something spiraling in nature, it will almost always take the shape of that Fibonacci spiral. And using that trick, you can redefine what your center of attention is. Okay? Well, I'm just setting up a quick little still life here. On my side table. Okay. And we'll go back to the I'm sure you'll be glad we're going back to the tripod to give it some stability. And then we're going to point down here at our still life on the table. A little more height. Okay. We're going to have to spin him around on his mount. Okay. Let's See, I don't always have these shots completely planned out. Just trying to figure out what I'm doing here. Okay, so I have 3 objects on this table. Okay, I have this coffee cup, my mouse, and my phone. Here, turn the phone over and make him more interesting. All right. Now, right now, I have them all clustered in the center, all together, just equal. Okay. So let's see what happens if we apply the rule of thirds. Okay. So by the rule of thirds, okay, I would go about here, place my mouse on one of the corners, place my phone on a different corner, okay, and then the bottom third line would come here, but because I'm working on corners, it would go there, okay. Now that starts to get a bit more interesting, all right. If we're working with the golden ratios, then they would all move just a little bit more in and down and in and down and in and down, okay? In and up. Now that is more interesting. But what happens if we start to look at the whole idea of using the spiral, okay? Now I'm going to cheat because I can, all right? Okay. Notice if I put my mouse in the very center of the table, okay? It's not very interesting. I just have 3 things lined up on a table, okay? But if I move my mouse to where the center of that Fibonacci spiral would be, okay? And then I start to create a shape, maybe there, okay? Now we're starting with our spiral, okay? We're going up, we're going out, okay? See how this is fairly close in, a little further out, and then the table makes up the rest of the line, okay? So that's a relatively interesting shot, okay? Let's look at the same thing, but rather than a down shot, we'll do the same exercise here with a sideways shot. Again, bear with me while I change my setup just a little bit. One. Okay. All the way out. There he is. All right. Now we've got a little bit of distortion here. Okay. But now that we've come down to the level of the table, notice how that's kind of an interesting arrangement. If we made them all equal, it would not be as interesting. But if we adjust them so that they start to form this spiral, it gets to be a more interesting shot. Okay? Don't forget that life works in more than one dimension. Okay? So it's a 3-dimensional shot. So what if instead of, and I don't have anything to prop that up, okay? What if instead I make the phone the subject, okay? Put him at that focal point, okay? Now, not only are we running Okay, our spiral this way. Okay, we have to move him down because he's so big compared to the other. Okay, but we're also running a spiral this way. Okay, see how the heights make a different spiral? Okay, so you have to think. That's why I like using this with still lifes, because with still life you have control over all aspects. So you want to use multiple heights and multiple depths away from the camera, as well as just the physical arrangement, flat surface arrangement of the objects. Okay, and that's where you can get some truly, truly interesting shots. Now, not this still life. This still life's kind of boring, but I need my mouse back. There we are. So here we go. So that's going to be the show today. I did manage to fill it up. It's because I babble when I start playing with my camera. That's our show today. What did we do? We went through the new images. Yosemite sky. Citrus leaves in morning. Don't stare into the sun. Crystal Lake sunrise. Distant ski haven. Those are the 5 pictures this week. And then we talked about the wait, get my mouse back over here. See, I have to get back into computer mode. We talked about the Fibonacci spiral or golden spiral. Okay, as well see here. Okay, as well as the golden ratio grid, very similar to the rule of thirds grid, but rather than being 3 equal parts, it uses that 1 to 1.608 ratio to come up with slightly adjusted intersection points and zones that you can use, particularly if you use multiples. Okay, you can put a subject tight here, okay, and then sort of fill up this corner, and then maybe fill up this zone. Okay, so it's really good when you have multiple zones to work with. Okay, so and then we showed you what was going on the A6000. Okay, using our still life, using our oleander and our fence. Okay. Rule of thirds, golden ratio. Okay. We took some sort of strange shot in the backyard, okay, and that was for a different project. What do we got coming up this week? Okay, lots of things to cover. One, today is the last day for the Memorial Day sale and the last day for the May giveaway. So if you haven't gotten yourself in the May giveaway, go to ronalcottphotography.com. There is a link that will come up in the red banner at the top of the page that says enter the May giveaway. That should be a hint. That's where you go to enter the May giveaway. Go in there, enter the giveaway. Tomorrow afternoon, about 5:30, I will be announcing, I will be pulling the winning number live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And the sale ends today. Use the code MEMORIAL to get 20% off the entire site. Okay. Next, just wanted to mention quick, that I've added a new tool to the website. Okay. If you go in the menu and look at upload your art, you now can get the same museum quality art from your own photos that I get from mine. Okay. It's just 3 simple steps. You go in there, 4 steps. You will upload your art, you will choose a size, you will crop the image, and then you'll place your order. And it will come straight to you, professionally produced, on museum quality paper, archival inks, all the same high quality materials that I use as a professional photographer. You can even order it framed. So it comes ready to hang on your wall. So that's a new feature. Oh wait, I'm showing it to you and you're not there. You can't see it. Oh well. Anyway, it's there. Trust me. I'm trying to explain it. I'm waving things in a picture on here and you're not even there. So go to upload your art. And you'll find it there. All right. So that's new. The next thing is I've gotten good news this week on 2 fronts. It looks like, fingers crossed, Hot August Nights, Reno, Nevada, August 5th through the 9th is a green light. Okay, barring anything else happening in the world, I will be up there with a booth, displaying my art, meeting people, talking to people, answering your questions. And then the second one is Art on Main, which is Walnut Creek, California. Excuse me one sec. The allergies out here are just catching up to me. But Walnut Creek, which I believe is going to be August 23rd and 24th. So I've got 2 shows that look like they are going to go. That I got word this week that they've reached a threshold and they've decided to move ahead. So they could still get pulled at the last minute. And there's a lot of time between the 1st of June and August 24th. But right now, they have the green light. They're going to start their production and move ahead, assuming that we're going to hold those 2 shows. And then finally, what was finally? Oh, be sure to join me Friday, 5:30 in the afternoon for happy hour virtual art gallery show in my living room. We will look at some limited edition prints that I have in stock in the house. That one has special deals, its own giveaway, and people come and we have a beverage, and I get a little bit more dressed up than this, and we just talk art for a half hour. That one's shorter. So be sure to join me then. Be sure to come back here next Sunday morning at 8:30. Be sure to be good to yourself. Be sure to be kind to each other. And go out there and become the person that you would like to meet. I'm Ron. This was Sunday Morning Live with Ron. Thank you for coming.